Salutations readers, welcome back to my channel. My name is Nkechi, and this is giving the mid-year book tag. We are about halfway through the year, y'all, which is a little bit surprising, not gonna lie. Time is truly flying, and reading is a little bit slower. Actually, it's actually a lot more slower than I am used to, personally, but we're making it work. We are making it work for myself, and yeah. Anyways, this book tag was created by Earl Grey Books and Is That Chami? So I will link, I think Earl Grey Books' original video is still up, so I'll link that in the video description. Also, added a couple questions, changed, reworded some questions as well to fit a little bit that fits my particular reading. So if it's not one-to-one from the original tag, that's why. But let's honestly just get right into it. I also have my handy dandy matcha latte, lavender matcha latte, and we're just gonna drink it. We gotta stay hydrated here. It is still really, really warm out, but also because I need the boost of energy. All right, question number one. Best book you've read so far? Now, I have definitely read a few solid 5-star reads, but there's only one book so far this year that has like the highest 5-star. Like, I do use the Copal rating system, so it helps me to differentiate between my 5 stars. And there is only one book that's like up there as far as like 5-star reads, and that is The Maid and the Crocodile by Jordan Fueco. This is a young adult romantic fantasy, and this book is set in the same world as the Raybury duology. You do not need to read the duology in order to read The Maid and the Crocodile, but I do recommend at least reading Raybury to get a better sense of like the world. This standalone does spoil the ending of Redemptor as far as like where things are left in the duology, so pick your order as far as like when you read this, but I highly recommend. I want more people to really read this. I bought it right with my mom. We both loved it, and I'm so glad that I've now basically read everything Jordan Fueco has written so far. I just need her to write more books. So this is definitely the best book of 2025 for me so far. Okay, question number 2 is one that I personally added, and that is the worst book you've read so far, because we're going to talk about the best, we got to talk about the worst, okay? This is like a mid-year check-in. So, worst book, I'm going by books I've completed for this one, and so far the worst book I've read is A Drop of Corruption by Robert Jackson Bennett. Yeah. Now, I already have a dedicated review video for this one, so I'm not really going to get into it, but disappointing is up there, but also it is just objectively the worst book I've read so far. I have not rated any other book less than 3 stars, except for this one. I gave this book 2 stars, so yeah, definitely the worst one. All right, question number 3, best sequel you've read so far. And the best sequel I've read, I will have to say, is At Your Age, Eve Brown by Talia Herbert. This is the 3rd and final book in the Brown Sisters trilogy, and this is definitely my favorite of the series. I just really enjoyed following Eve Brown, her journey, her character arc, and her falling in love with Jacob Wayne. I just really love their romance. It was just so cute. I really related to Eve as a character, and even also related to Jacob, and I just really loved how they fell in love. I just enjoyed my time reading that story, and yeah, I want even more people to read it. I know it's a pretty popular series, but I still want even more people to read this series, especially Eve Brown's book. Question number 4. Worst sequel you've read so far. So this is one I personally added. To answer this question, I have to go with a sequel I actually did not finish, and it's because of the fact that I don't think it needs to exist as a sequel. And that is A Theory of Dreaming by Ava Reid. This book doesn't officially come out until, I think now July. I think originally it was supposed to come out in August. Not really sure. But I did get an e-arc from the publisher, and I did DNF it about 52-ish% of the way through. This book, y'all, does not need to exist. The sequel to A Study in Drowning, that book did not need to exist. Now, it has been a while since I DNF'd it. I think I DNF'd it back in like January, so I don't quite fully remember why I had to DNF it. But genuinely, y'all, that book does not need to exist as a sequel. Read A Study in Drowning as a standalone, call that a day. A Theory of Dreaming, not necessary to read. I mean, unless you really love Preston, but honestly, I don't think that book really did much for his character. Granted, I only managed to get halfway through, so what do I really know? But it did make me realize more of the problems with like A Study in Drowning because of this sequel. That's really bad. If you read a sequel and you started questioning why you love the first book, something is just fundamentally wrong here. So yeah, that's pretty much my answer for this question, because I got no other sequel. Every other sequel I've been reading has been pretty solid. All right, question number 5, new release you haven't read yet, but you want to. So I do have a few for this one, mostly because of the fact that I'm just really slow going through my reading. So I haven't gone to as many new releases as I really prefer. One of them is actually The Starving Saints by Caitlin Starling. I've been seeing this book around. I've not really heard much about this author before, but The Starving Saints was really interesting to me because of the fact that it's a medieval horror novel that has some purple prose, and like I've seen a few of my bookish mutuals who've read it really enjoy it. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm here for it, especially for one of my bookish mutuals who is not really into purple prose writing. They really enjoyed it. So I'm like, okay, I'm definitely gonna check this book out now. Another one is also A Gentleman's Gentleman by TJ Alexander. I do own the audiobook for it, but I just haven't been in the mood to actually start reading it yet. It is historical romance, and I don't particularly pick up historical romances as much, but I do think I will be picking up pretty soon because I did just get a notification that my library has the physical hold available for me, so I will be picking that up, and I hope to read it really, really soon as well. But then also, I really, really, really want to get into Harmonton Season by Tocho Nobuchi. I was gifted an arc of this book back in January, and I have yet to even finish it. I did start reading it, but I have yet to really continue on with it. I put this book on pause for several times now, and for a long while too. And I really want to get into this book. I also even have the audiobook from Macmillan Audio through NetGalley. So yeah, I have the audiobook and a physical art copy. I need to like hurry it up, especially since this was one of my most anticipated releases as well for the year. Like especially for that first half of the year, I really wanted to get into Harmonton Season. I'm just not quite in the headspace to pick it up right now, but I do hope I can pick it up very, 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 very soon. All right, question number 6, most anticipated release for the second half of the year. Now, I do already have a video as far as like anticipated releases for the first half of the year, but also for the second half of the year. I will link both of those videos in the video description down below if you have not checked them out. So I do have a long list, but I do also have, I will be saying that some titles for sure that I'm like, okay, I really want to read these books in the second half of the year if I can. One of them is August Lane by Regina Black. This one I was actually mostly curious about because I saw the cover and I was like, okay, black girl with like a guitar and it's in black and white. This is interesting. And then I was looking up the synopsis and that it actually looks very, very messy. This book is actually the author's sophomore novel, and this is pretty much following musician artists. One of them got really popular and famous because the other artist, I think the female main character wrote a song and the male main character took credit for it and became famous and left her in the dust basically, and it's a romance between the two of them, which I'm like, how the hell are you gonna be falling in love when someone over here who I think they were friends as well, stole your song and made himself completely popular and famous? Huh? How is that gonna work? Next up is The Second Death of Locke by V.L. Bovalino. This is actually the first book in a new trilogy. I think this book said it was perfect for fans of Getting the Ninth and of the Six Deaths of the Saint by Alexi Harrell, right? I think that's what that short story was called. I've not read that short story, but I am familiar with like Getting the Ninth because of the Locke Tomb trilogy, and I love the cover. There's like a lady knight. I think we're dealing with like bisexual main characters, and it's meant to be messy. And I'm like, I mean, what else can I want? That sounds really, really cool. I'm super excited to check it out, and I've been waiting for a cover reveal for the longest time. So I'm so glad that the cover is now revealed, and I'm so excited that it comes out in September. August Lane comes out in July. Another one I'm anticipating as well is Savage Blooms by Saint Gibson. This is the first book in an erotic fantasy romance trilogy where we're following like a 4-way polycule basically, or at least 2 couples that end up in like a 4-way polycule or something like that in the Scottish Highlands. I think there's like some folklore stuff, but it's very character driven. There's a lot of like the sex scene stuff. I'm learning from like Saint specifically about this book is that the sex scenes are very integral regarding the character development. So that's given me at least a little bit more to help me deal with the fact that it is erotic fantasy romance. I'm like, fantasy romance is already such a mess, more of a mess than a hit kind of like blend of genres for me, especially erotica, which I'm like, I barely even touch over there anyways. But I do trust St. Gibson's writing to help me get through the story because they also said that this is written kind of similar to like A Diary of Blood and Education of Malice in that realm. So I think the writing style is going to help me there. But as long as I keep in mind that this is very character driven and that's not going to have as much of plot, I think that's going to also help me with my expectations for the story, especially since it is a first book in a series. And of course, I'm highly anticipating A Mouthful of Dust by Niveau, the 6th installment in the Singing Hill cycle. Like, come on, y'all. Like, I literally have all the novellas. Let me actually get them real quick. Like, y'all, you see this cover, right? And then look at all these novellas. Look at them. Look at all 5 of them right here. Read these and you might be weeping. Read these and weep. So I'm indeed very, very excited to continue on with this series of novellas. I don't quite remember what we're doing particularly in this novella. I don't really care. I'm just going to read it and like call that a day. And the last book that I'm also really anticipating for the second half of the year is Son of the Morning by Akweke Emezi. This is going to be their 10th book, y'all. 10th. And I already own all 9 of their other books. If you see my Instagram, I have a collection of Quick and Maisy's works. I am so excited that their 10th book is going to be a fantasy romance and is going to be about the main character falling in love with Lucifer, which, like, okay. And also, I've been anticipating this book's release since, I think, 2022. Yes, I've been anticipating this book, Son of the Morning, specifically since 2022. That's how long I've known about this book's existence. And now it's finally coming out after like 3 years. Like, when I tell you, oh, I'm excited, okay? I don't care what no one says about when this book's coming out. I'm gonna read it, and I'm like, oh, I know I'm gonna love it. I don't care what no one says, I'm gonna love it. I just know it. Okay, I gotta stop dancing. Question number 7. Biggest disappointment. Unfortunately, as far as biggest disappointment goes, it has to be 2025 releases on this one. I was expecting a little bit more from them. One of them is Water Moon by Samantha Soto Yambao. I already have a DNF review actually on this channel. Yeah, it was pretty disappointing for me to even have a DNF review of this book. I even got it as an ARC from the publisher, and I was very disappointed in the fact that this did not work for me. Check out that video if you want to know more of my thoughts, but I also do think, though, I do know a lot of people have really enjoyed this one, but I've also seen pretty substantial amount of people also didn't love this one. So I'm not sure what the general consensus is for this book, but at least for people that I trust with their reviews and their opinions, we've all felt pretty similar about it. And another book I was pretty disappointed about as well is Death of the Author by Nydia Okorafor. This one isn't bad, though. I did give it like 3.25 stars. I still think it's a solid enough book and at least somewhat good. It's just that it's more literary fiction than it is sci-fi. Like, it doesn't blend sci-fi and literary fiction in the way that I thought it would, and that's the most disappointing aspect of it. I think everything else is pretty solid if you expect it to be a little more literary fiction, family drama and stuff, and less so about the sci-fi aspect of it. I also do think that the actual title of the book and what Dr. Okorafor was really going for, I think it kind of works. Again, I don't think I quite understood what she was really going for initially, so it was a little bit disappointing. And I did also get an ARC of it as well from the publisher and even purchase a physical copy that I no longer own, but I will say I was a little bit disappointed, and also I didn't particularly like the internalized ableism that the main character was experiencing and how I don't think it was fully really challenged either. So that was also very frustrating while I was reading it. So overall, it's kind of hard for me to really recommend it for anyone, but it's not terrible or anything. So take that with what you will. Now for question number 8, we're going to go into the flip side and talk about the biggest surprise, which, y'all, when I'm talking about surprise, I was genuinely surprised. I had no idea that I would enjoy any of these 2 books I'm going to talk about for this question. One of them actually is Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. I know, like, this is supposed to be a surprise. Yes, it is a surprise, especially when I did read it, because this was actually in March that I read it, and that was during my unfortunate birthday reading slump month. Still mad about that fact. And the fact also is that I read this one via audio for the most part, and I read it in 3 days. That's the fastest I've ever read a classic. Like, it's not overly long, but like, it's not super short either. And I read it in 3 days. Surprising. Very, very surprised. I do think I actually have a video diary of me reading this book in 3 days. So there's actual video evidence of the fact that I did that. But I was also surprised too because I've never read anything by Jane Austen before, so I had no idea if I would even like Jane Austen's writing or her character work or thematic work or anything, and I just devoured the story and I truly loved it. And speaking of favorites, I also did read The Favorites by Lane Fargo, a book that took a lot of people by the storm earlier this year, and I did read it and I also loved it. I am genuinely surprised that I would even love it because it is a Wuthering Heights retelling, reimagining kind of story in the vein of like Daisy Jones and the Six following competitive ice dancers. And I'm like, okay, I don't know if I particularly would love it, but I've heard that the audiobook was really good, and it is multi-narrators. And I also love the format of the way that the story is told as well, with the interviews, like excerpts of interviews and the main storyline. Honestly, love that. I was so surprised on how gripped I was in the story. Now, granted, it is very messy, though. It is a contemporary sports romance, but the romance is very messy. It's very, very messy, and not healthy either, but I was so fascinated and just wanted to know how the story was going to end. And oh my gosh, I just really did enjoy this one. So if you haven't checked it out, I do recommend checking it out if you have not already, but I was genuinely surprised. All right, question number 9, favorite new author, debut or new to you? I do actually have a debut author that I'm like, okay, I am very excited for the next thing that's going to come out from them. And that is Makana Yamamoto. This is the author of Hamajang Luck. I did get an e-arc from the publisher as well, and I really enjoyed it. I don't think it's perfect, but I really did enjoy the story, the characters, the heist, because this is like a space opera heist story. And it does follow pretty much a large cast of like Native Hawaiian characters who are non-binary, lesbian, femme, or butch. Like, I thought there's just so much going on in here, and I really loved and how the author explored their character work. It was just really fun. I really enjoyed it, and I'm very curious to check out anything else that this author would publish in the future. Another author is definitely Talia Hibbert. Oh my gosh, yo, I've read the Brown Sisters trilogy back to back to back months, okay? March was Chloe Brown, then we had Dani Brown, and I did Eve Brown in April and May, and then now in June, I recently did read Highly Suspicious and Unfairly Cute by this author. I think that's her only young adult book she has, and I'm like, okay, well, clearly, I just love when Talia Hibbert just writes a romance. I'm like, she's now a new favorite author of mine. I will be reading whatever romance book that this woman writes in the future, in her backlist. Like, I'm gonna be checking out all her books. Okay, so she is definitely a favorite author for me. Another author for me too that I have a favorite, even though I've only read one of his books, is Percival Everett. I've only read James, but the way that he wrote James, I'm like, oh, I see why this got a national award. I don't remember which award it was. He deserved that award, and I will be checking out his backlist. And he has a backlist, so I'm like, well, I got options. And I'm checking it out as many as I can because, oh my gosh, y'all. James, if you have not read James, please pick it up. Okay? Read it. All right, question number 10. Newest fictional kinship, which I know originally it was Fictional Crush, but I don't get crushes fictional or otherwise. So I figured just change it to a kinship, which I pretty much define it as like a character that you maybe you relate to in such an emotional, spiritual level, maybe. I think that's how I want to describe it. And I think the only character I really have for this question is Lizzie Bennett from Pride and Prejudice. I really like seeing like how she's such a judgmental kind of character. She is pretty judgmental, not gonna lie. She's very also high-spirited, she's opinionated, and she sticks to what she believes with her morals, but also really is a caring person as well. And I just really like seeing her journey again in the book Pride and Prejudice. And I just really related to that. I really relate that in her, and it just, I don't know, it grabbed a certain part of my soul there, okay? So, yeah. And question number 11 is newest favorite character, and I do have two. One of them is definitely Malini from the Burning Kingdoms trilogy by Tasha Suri. I mean, I did really enjoy Malini's character in the Jasmine Throne, but the Jasmine Throne isn't much of a Malini book. That's more of a Priya book. Now, the Oleander Sword, on the other hand, that is a Malini book, okay? Malini, I like her, okay? I love Malini's character work in the Oleander Sword, and also what Tasha Suri did with her character in the Lotus Empire, but the Oleander Sword, that's like Malini coming to her power, okay, after the events of the Jasmine Throne. I loved her character work, and honestly, the Oleander Sword is my favorite in the trilogy, but I just really loved Malini as a character, okay? I love seeing how cunning she is, but also how, like, her ability to assess people's, like, motivations pretty quickly. Like, that's her main strength, and how that was, we don't get to see much of that for plot reasons in the Jasmine Throne, but how she's able to be more free and able to take command and be in charge in the Oleander Sword. I'm like, yes, that's a female main character I can truly root for, even though her morals can be, they're morally gray on that part, but I still loved reading her story, okay? Truly. Oh my gosh, read this trilogy if y'all have not checked it out already. And of course, though, Eve Brown from the Brown Sisters trilogy. Eve Brown, for sure, a new favorite character. I mean, I already love the book, so of course I love Eve Brown. Definitely loved it. Okay, question number 12 is a book that emotionally moved me. So not made me cry, because honestly, I don't cry with the books that I read. I really don't. I just talk about books that emotionally moved me. One of them is the Luis Ortega Survival Club by Senora Reyes. This is a young adult queer contemporary novel about pretty much sexual assault and rape culture. This one really did emotionally move me because it's a prominent thing. And just to let you know, though, if you are curious about this book, it does not have any graphic depictions of rape or sexual assault on page, but it is brief. It is something that has happened in passing to several of the main characters. For sure, the main character, who is mute and autistic as well. So for her, it's even more difficult for her to even like talk about what even happened. And for a long period of time, actually, for the novel, she doesn't she didn't really quite realize what really happened to her. And I think the way that Senora Reyes depicted that kind of a story and the emotions of such an event was so real and visceral that it did really deeply move me. And I was so grateful with the ending and how hopeful it was, especially for the main character to find community and people who've experienced it, but also people who support them and for them to get justice for what happened to them. Same thing also with Chain Gang All Stars by Nana Kwame Adjei. This was actually a book that was recommended to me for the Six Fresh by Six Friends. And I really do appreciate this story as well. And how this is like a battle royale competition based story, dystopian kind of story, kind of like Hunger Games in a way, but it follows a particular class actually of American citizens, and that is prisoners. This is a story about the American prison system and also about fighting for abolition and how that even in this like daily games televised, by the way, it's also like televised as well in the story, and how that the author showcases how like the American prison system is very much not really conducive in preventing crime or even rehabilitating the people who have committed crimes at all. Like, it's actually very humane, especially with the punishments. And then how that in order for any of these prisoners to be free when they join this program, because it is also a program thing as well, instead of being in the prison, you also be a program kind of thing. There's two types of freedom. You either are high freed, where you pretty much kill everyone else in order to actually gain your freedom after like I think a couple of years, your particular rank, or you're low freed, and that's when you're literally dead. I also did appreciate how the author was able to write Loretta, Thorwar, and Hurricane Stax's relationship as well, since a lot of it, for just a lot of their interactions, everything pretty much is televised. There's always cameras on them. There's no sense of like privacy or anything. Like, we're just seeing like everything. And I really also appreciate how like we do get perspectives outside of the games, or the people participating. We get perspectives of people who are announcing or commentating, people who are actively watching this stuff on television and how they see it, people who are fighting for, hey, this thing needs to be shut down. I really, really appreciate how Adjei really talks about the U.S. prison system and how that we can find ways to also fight for abolition as well, and give us a lot of facts regarding our system. Okay, question number 13. A book that made you happy. And I'm just gonna say the entire Brown Sisters trilogy by Talia Hibbert, okay? I really did enjoy reading this series. I mean, Danny Brown was not my favorite. It's definitely my least favorite, but it was still a really good installment though. I just preferred Chloe Brown and Eve Brown's stories a little bit more. But also though, I don't know. There's something about the way Talia Hibbert writes, like banter and emotional connections, romantic connections in this entire trilogy, but also even in Highly Suspicious and Unfairly Cute. Because I also wouldn't include that in here. That also made me pretty happy as well. Is that it's just maybe more hopeful and happy and appreciative. Even though again, I'm not much of actually more of a romance reader, but like I just like to find romances that really work for me. And Talia Hibbert's writing romances that I really do enjoy. So I don't know. Whenever I read a Talia Hibbert romance book, I'm so happy. I'm just happy. All right, question number 14. Favorite book to film adaptation you saw this year? Well, since I read Pride and Prejudice, I did watch the 2005 adaptation Pride and Prejudice with Keira Knightley as Elizabeth Bennet. And actually, I had no idea that this year will be the 20th anniversary of the film. I really, really did enjoy my time watching this movie for the first time this year. I think I've seen it already now twice, maybe even 3 times, but I've really enjoyed each time that I've watched it. And I'm now understanding why people really love Pride and Prejudice, and especially this movie. I get it, y'all. I truly get it. Question number 15 is a question that I personally have added, and that is favorite video or videos you've done so far this year. And my favorite so far actually has to be the Howl's Moving Castle coded themed reading vlog, where I did try to read the original book, and I'm not really a fan of it. Granted, though, I am indeed highly biased by the Studio Ghibli version, so, but I did try also reading other books that were inspired by the film or the book. I actually had some fun trying to read the original story and also reading books that were inspired by the book. So check it out, actually, if you've not checked it out below. And I also do think I also am quite proud of, I think it was Minnesota Spring Diary number 16. So it's my most recent video diary, more or less. That one I also did enjoy my time filming. I had a great time actually with like filming it, what I was doing in it. The editing process took a while, not gonna lie. but I did enjoy my time filming and producing that video. So if you've not checked that out either, I also recommend checking out in the video description down below if you have not already. And yeah, I don't know, I'm actually pretty satisfied for the most part of the videos that I've put out this year so far. And I'm hoping for the second half of the year, I can put out even more interesting and more engaging content for the second half. All right, question number 16 is most beautiful book you've bought so far this year or that you received. For me, it has to be The Buffalo Hunter by Stephen Graham Jones. I had the honor actually of meeting Stephen Graham Jones in an author event. I think sometime in March. I had no idea he was that tall. Not gonna lie, I don't know. I've never actually been to an author event before, so it was so fascinating to actually meet him and hear him talking about the Buffalo Hunter. It was really, really cool. And I really do like this physical copy. I do like it's just solid red sprayed edges. And also it is indeed personalized and signed to me. I also even got this nice cool sticker that is somehow related to the book. I don't know what this is relating to be quite honest, but I need to read the book in order to find that out. But I do like that it is indeed personalized and signed to me, and there's a nice stamp. And I did also get a bookmark from the bookstore that was hosting the event. So yeah, this is actually a Native American owned bookstore. So very exciting that they're the ones who hosted this event. Yeah, and hopefully this will be my first foray into Stephen Graham Jones. I have yet to read anything by this author, but now that I have this book of his, I'm indeed very, very excited to check it out. Now, question 17, and this is the last question for this tag. What books do you need to read by the end of the year? Ha ha ha. Well, thing is, I have a lot of arcs to get through. I have like 13 arcs that I need to get through, and that does include Harmonton season, because I am behind on my reading, a little bit more behind than I would prefer to, especially regarding my obligation reads. So I need to like get a move on, because if I don't finish any of the arcs that I requested this year, I'm not requesting any arcs in 2026, because I don't like having a backlog of arcs that I have not read and reviewed yet. Whether I've DNF'd and reviewed it or I've finished and reviewed it. So I need to get a move on. That's going to be a pretty big priority, honestly, for the second half of the year, as much as I can. I mean, of course, I have books that I already own and books that I'm borrowing from my library, but I'm trying to get through the arcs. It's just that for some reason, my brain is not interested in reading any of these obligation reads for some reason. And I end up starting them, and then I end up putting them on pause. And I'm just like, come on. We need to get back to these things. So I need to get through my arcs. But another book that I also really want to get to before 2026 is To Shape a Dragon's Breath by Monocle Black Goose. This is actually a book that was recommended to me for 6 Recs by 6 Friends. And this is an adult fantasy book that I think is also Dark Academia vibes. It's also dragons in here as well. And I really want to finish reading this book before the end of the year because, I mean, not before, but by the end of the year. Because the second book in this series, which is right here, I don't quite remember what the title is right now on the top of my head, but that book comes out in January of 2026. I think January 27th or something. I don't remember quite the date. But I want to read that sequel, and I really like the cover for the sequel. So I'm like, okay, we need to read the first book, so let's hurry it up. I do have the audiobook on hold, but it's taken a long minute to even get to me, so I think this is going to have to be an eyeball read, and right now I'm having some trouble reading through my physical TBR with just my eyeballs. I don't know why, so I need to like really figure that out, honestly. But as far as like my physical TBR is concerned, I really want to get to this one. I do have a little bit of stack of books right here on my shelf that I also want to get to before the end of the year, but the one I really want to prioritize is the To Shape a Dragon's Breath, personally. But anyways, that is it. That is all for this tag. Thank you all for watching it. Like it if you like it. Comment down below your responses to any of these questions, especially for like best and worst book, most disappointing, most surprising. I'm very curious about those ones. But I'm also kind of curious on any of y'all's anticipated releases for the second half of the year. I mean, I already have like a video, but I also have a longer list now for some anticipated releases for the second half of the year. So actually, I would like to have that list be a little bit longer if you have any. So please put that in the comments down below, please, and thank you. And if you do like my vibe, you like this video, and you want to see more videos from me or check out more of my previous videos, I do recommend subscribing if you have not already. Now, if you made it this far into the video, you're not sure what to say, but you want to leave me an emoji, let me know you're here. Please leave me a matcha emoji in the comments down below if you made this far, because I do indeed have my matcha. And it's a lot of it. I think I'm going to save this for tomorrow, and I'm going to need it. But anyways, thank you all again for watching this video, and I hope to see you on my next one. Bye!